I know, right? Nice, soothing music. It's very nice. Oh, babe, we're recording. He just wanted to be on the camera, y'all.
He's like, I figured out how to do it.
Right.
I figured it
It's
out.
my first cameo.
All right, ready?
Good morning, family. This is Andrea Powell with We Are Not So Different, chilling out with ESM Radio 89.9 FM. So, we're new to the bunch here, but that doesn't mean anything. My dad used to say, one monkey don't stop no show. So let's get it started. We are not so different. We are not so different. So I came up with a theory or the thought of we are not so different because I am determined to point out the differences that bring us together as opposed to putting the glaring, obvious spotlight on the differences that tear us apart. So I came up with the thought we are not so different. So the podcast is directed at having conversations, and a lot of these conversations are the things that people don't want to talk about. And I'm determined to have conversations that we need to talk about. If we're grown, we should be able to talk about sex. If we're grown, we should be able to talk about abuse. If we're grown, we should be able to talk about, we're grown. So that's what we're doing. We're having conversations. We are not so different. So pull up a chair or your favorite spot, on the couch, get your favorite drink, whether it's Kool-Aid or, tequila, whatever floats your boat. Settle in and get ready to join us with this conversation. Today on We Are Not So Different, we have Dexter Brocks. Say hello to the people.
Hola.
So,
real quick though, because I'm all about plugging.
Okay.
So go ahead and tell them where they can find that podcast of yours.
So at www.wearenotsodifferent, that's my website. You can find it there. You can also find it on iTunes. You can also find it on Spotify.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, we're all over the place. Exciting. Really exciting.
Absolutely. And then the best way they can contact you?
So you can find me actually on my website. My phone number is there. I will answer. The email is there. On my website, I don't want to tell you because I want you to go to my website, www.wearenotsodifferent.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Snapchat. You can find me everywhere. I'm here for y'all. I'm here for y'all, family. I'm here for y'all.
That was good. I like that.
Okay, good.
That was really good.
Awesome. So, I usually try to start off the podcast the same way every single time. I have two questions that I have asked every single guest so far. And the first one is, if you had the undivided attention of an audience of your own choosing, who would those people be, and what would you tell them, Dexter?
Let's see. And I knew this was coming, so I had it all in my head. I had it all planned out. And an audience of my choosing. What would I say to them? Well, normally, and I'll circle around to that. We had a situation where someone brought a question to me and said, "What's the best way to get the attention of 100,000 people? Like, what would you do? What's the quickest way to get the attention of 100,000 people?" Now that's starting from zero, and you can use any means, social media. You can use kind of whatever you want. Now, there were some very wild and crazy answers to that.
I have a couple of thoughts.
Yes, so I want you to think. I want you to think about that.
Okay.
What's the best and quickest way? Because if you were to grow your show to 100,000 listeners, that's look at that. So
you're so smart.
Thank you. So that's the best way. So think about that one. Now, to answer your question, if I had the undivided attention of a group of people, my best way, I guess, to just make it simple is I think, and the whole reason I started my podcast, My Relationship with Love, was we felt like there was an issue with youth and allowing them to be heard. So if you think about it, suicide numbers amongst 12 and under are some of the highest they've ever been. And that's because people simply feel like, and the youth feel like that they can't speak out to anyone or reach out to anyone because, you know, whether it's being bullied at school, whether it's having a crush and not really understanding what that's doing to your body, being that age, you know, your emotions are all over the place, your hormones are all over the place, and being in a spot where it, you know, depending on what kind of relationship you have with your parents,
that is right there.
If you don't feel like you can go to them, and if you don't feel like you can reach out to them, or they might, you know, you're afraid to, or they might shun you.
Yeah.
That's I guess you can say from someone that young of an age, it's hurtful.
Yeah.
You know, they really
crippling.
Yes, and whether they have that on top of the bullying, on top of all this, and then they do something, you know, drastic because they don't see another way out, and they know they feel bad, but they can't come to it. So I would try to get as many of those kids together as possible, all of them, as many as I can come with.
Dex, I never knew this. Yeah. I feel like this is something I should have known. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, it's fine.
Okay.
And I would try to have a conversation with each individual, you know, whether it's million, whatever. I would try to talk to each individual one and let them know that whatever they're going through, it's going to be all right.
It's too early in the morning for this.
Yeah, that would be that.
That caught me in the feels.
Yeah.
So I'm sidetracking, but did you read my latest blog? Chronicles of Black Rainbow.
Not four.
Oh my gosh.
To it yet,
so if you would have read it, you would have known why this is striking a nerve with me right now.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell y'all what's about. You have to go to my website and read that. Okay. So, wow. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Okay. So, since we're talking about youth, if you had the opportunity to go back and speak to younger Dex, like say 5 or 6 or whatever. I mean, everyone has one of those pivotal moments as children when you realize, oh, snap, you know, I'm about to cross over, you know. So if you could go back and talk to that Dex, like, what do you think he needs to hear?
And this is, life's going to happen exactly the same as it happened.
Yeah, we're not trying to go back and change them. We're not trying to do butterfly
right. But I just mean younger Dex is going to go through everything that I went through in my life. Okay, so if I could speed run through time and find younger me, I'd probably tell younger me that no matter what, no matter how dark it gets, no matter how troubling it gets, you're going to come out of it and it's going to be okay. All of your issues with life, all of your confusions about life, all of the questions that you have that dive deeper into just a baseline thought process, all of your deep dive questions that all of your deep dive questions that you might have, they're all going to get answered in due time. I think I would tell younger Dex that, you know, I wouldn't come out and straight up say, yeah, you're going to lose a parent, obviously, but I would.
Why not?
Yeah, I would try to just let him, like, look,
sir,
understand, but I would just try to let him know that live with it. Don't try to hide it.
Right.
Losing a parent is difficult. Speaking from experience.
Yes, sir.
And it can really, not that it's a crossroad in your life necessarily.
I mean, it can be though.
Because it could definitely lead you down one path.
Yes, sir.
Or lead you down another path. And whether you're equipped to walk either path is a mindset.
Yeah. But it's something that as a child, like, how old were you again?
1920.
Okay, so you weren't a child.
No.
But you were not equipped with what you're equipped with now.
Yes.
But correct. As a child, losing a parent is something that can be devastating because you don't have all the wherewithal. You don't have life experiences. You don't have the whatever you want to call it to.
Yeah.
You don't have it to. And even as an adult, gosh. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Actually, it's something to think about because while I was 1920, my sister was 11 or 12.
Yeah.
I think she was 12. Actually, I know she was 12. because he passed 2 days after her birthday.
Oh gosh.
And I remember the incident, like the when he actually probably left us was on her birthday. I remember getting that phone call, and as it as he held on for 2 more days, we always was just like, okay, he didn't want that to be what her birthday is reminded of the whole time, because he was essentially gone on the 13th. He just didn't officially, the process hadn't completed yet until the 15th.
Right.
So we always thought in our head that he held on for as long as he humanly possibly could to avoid having that be on her birthday.
That's a father's love, man.
Yeah. But to think, like you said, the youth and the child, my sister was 12 when she lost her father, which is difficult.
Yeah. Daddy's girl.
Exactly. Coming from she was a daddy's girl, prototypical. So to get that back, like for me, I was already out of the house. I was of age. I was on my own. So it's a different dynamic than her. And of course, my mom is going to get back out there well within her right.
Yeah.
So my sister seeing a new guy, and then the situation doesn't work out, and then another new guy, that might cause, she didn't have that same structure I did growing up.
All kind of stuff. Daddy issues.
Exactly.
Listen.
Mm-hmm. And it's, and you can only try to relate so much, but like my loss and her loss, while it was the same person, totally different.
Heck yeah,
totally
man.
different.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Man, you done went left on me this morning. Okay. I'm glad I had my time in the car to get
Oh yeah.
get my mind right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So because of the way that you lost your dad, do you think that had, well, I'm sure it had,
mm-hmm.
An impact on your mental capacity to deal with grief, to deal with life, period?
Yeah. I've always had a weird connection to grief. Because we talked about this numerous times, that when my dad passed, I didn't cry. I wasn't upset. And obviously it was a 3.5 year period of downfall and sickness. So it wasn't sudden. Mm-hmm. It wasn't instant.
So you could brace.
Right. For a long, it was around the 2-year mark. Not that I wished it, but I just wanted his pain to stop.
Right.
So when it eventually happened, I wasn't sad. I wasn't upset. I was almost more relieved, because the man I knew wasn't suffering anymore.
Right.
He didn't have all these ailments. He didn't have these issues, what he went through. And to see him like that, obviously, I don't know if you knew my dad when he was, and we've known each other. Mm-hmm. We just figured it out the other day. It was 12 years.
Right.
13.
No more.
15.
04.
Yeah.
16.
6, man.
Yes, sir.
And I always was just like, he was strong, built, 250 and solid, and then just, I think at the end he was like 104 was yeah. And so seeing that was probably harder than the actual passing. So again, but that's for me. Now my sister would have been 9 when this initially happened, maybe at some cognitive age to really grasp. Or I asked her last year, so I was like, what does she remember? And she was like, well, truly not much, just a lot of
really? At 9?
Yeah.
You remember stuff at 9?
And I was like, specifically of him. And she said she just remembered like a lot of school, like him taking her to school, their conversations that way. But that was between 9, so he was sick from 9 to 12, right, in hospitals, all that. But I don't remember anything from when I was 9. I know you, but we talked about this. You know that my memory starts at like 6th grade. I don't remember anything.
I don't understand. Like, I remember one of my earliest memories, I had to be like 4, and it was we were walking home from Beacon Ridge, and my dad picked me up in a blanket and carried me. Like, I was 4.
Really?
So, yeah, like, so when you say like 9, you don't remember, I'm like,
yeah.
Really?
Like, what grade is 6th grade? What is that?
6th. What do you mean? What grade is 6th?
Excuse me. I'm sorry. What age is 6th grade? Age.
So that's got to be like 10, 11, 12. Because 13, I was a freshman.
Yeah, I don't remember anything. 6th grade, so 10, 11,
For the
12
love
on.
of Ray J.
Yep, don't remember anything.
Okay. Well, I guess, do you think that's because of the situation of your dad? Because some people block out traumatic events.
I've been.
No, your mind just.
I've been deep into my mental crevices, and I've always said that I'm probably blocking out something super traumatic. And I brought it up to my mom once, and she kind of no answered me.
Also,
so
maybe
like,
she.
Yeah,
Mama.
I was like,
Mama.
Maybe something's going on here.
Mom.
Gotta let it know.
Mom. Yes. Where's she at?
She's in Alabama now. Florida, I like to call it.
Florida.
Because she lives in Alabama, but if you look out back, there's palm trees everywhere. Her Walmart, the Walmart is closer to in Florida than it is to her where she lives in Alabama. So yeah,
she's Mama, in that weird need part. You to provide some clarity.
Yeah.
So if there are some deep, dark family secrets, man, that's another show. Don't get me started.
That could be a whole nother show. So this will not be my last time. We are not so different live on the air, obviously. Man. So we'll just write it down.
I did. I'm writing it right now. Listen, y'all ain't ready for my deep, dark family secrets. And that's another thing. Stop hiding stuff from your kids. We're going to find out anyway. And it sucks because then we find out after y'all dead and we ain't got nobody to go and ask the questions to. So stop it.
Yes. By the way, I just want to say, can't wait till Brian comes on here. Man.
You know what, Brian?
I can't wait.
I hope you're listening because I'm about to put you on blast.
Uh-oh.
No, because I've been after him for months.
Uh-oh.
Even before.
Oh, no.
Even before the radio. Because he has such a story.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell it because only he can tell it. But he has such an amazing story of transformation, of triumph, of change. And I think the world needs to hear it. So yeah,
I'm here for it.
Yes. Bryant, I'm not gonna say your last name. I was told this morning that creepers listen.
They do.
We don't want to give out all the
information. We do
but
not.
Bryant, yes, we need you. Okay, so I am like for real blown away. First of all, I had no idea that was the premise of your entire. What was it called again? My relationship.
My relationship with love. And just a quick talk about that name. We wanted it to connect to something. The name of the show. We said it needs to connect to something. So we put a whole bunch of words on paper.
Okay.
Love stuck out, of course. And then what's everybody struggle with? A relationship with love.
Yeah.
So we're just like my relationship with love. So then a lot of people told us we should name the show Your Relationship with Love because they want in their mind we're talking to the viewer. I was like, but we don't want them to feel like they're separate from us.
Right.
So it's my relationship with love.
You better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how we got there.
You better.
Yeah.
So when did this start? What year? Like, how old were you?
I was still in college. It started in 2015. Because this year is our 5-year anniversary.
Oh wow.
Yeah. May 4th or May 9th.
May the 4th be with
you. May 4th or May 9th, depending on who you talk to. And actually, real quick, because we went over this, I think I brought this up to you. Does your show exist the day you recorded it or the day it aired, your podcast? When is your anniversary? The day it first airs to people or the day you first sit down and record it?
For me, I would say it's the day that I aired it.
Okay.
Because I write a lot, and a lot of that has not out, and I record, and sometimes I don't record. I don't put it out there.
Yeah.
So why you two?
Yeah, we're off on that. We can't come to an agreement. So for me, it's the day we sat down and recorded it for the very first time because that was the start. At least that's how I saw it. For her, because obviously we batch record. So for her, it's the day the people first heard it.
Yeah.
It's the start.
Because it's like, I'm coming out.
Yeah.
I'm coming out. Yes.
I'm all right with that.
Okay, so then May or...
Yeah, May 4th or May 5th, depending, is the anniversary. And then, or excuse me, May 4th or May 9th, depending, is the anniversary. And then, of course, 2020. So we started in 2015. So 5 years. We're getting close to... We'll figure out something to do. But when we do, I'll be sure to let you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now here's your time for you to plug yourself.
Sir. Yeah.
Give them the name.
Absolutely.
Give them, the contact and your partner.
Yes.
She's all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
Where they can find you and contact you since you ain't got no Facebook.
Yeah, no Facebooks around here.
Sir.
No Facebooks. It's a lot of issues there. A lot of drums. But my relationship with love, we're basically syndicated all over. iTunes, Spotify, um, Google Play Podcasts, Google Music, whatever, however they do their thing. Stitcher Radio, TuneIn. I mean, everywhere you can search my relationship with love, or my name, Dexter Brocks. We are on there. We are live, and our website is theherojournal.me. That's theherojournal.me. We have a phenomenal writing. It used to be a team. Now it's kind of just down to one girl. Name is Haley. Excuse me. She lives in Canada.
Canada. How did that even happen?
So we used to. So here's our origin was before we even started a podcast. We had built a very, very ravish fan base on Tumblr.
Really?
Yes. We had about 10,000 followers on Tumblr. We were getting about 100,000 impressions a day. That's just people either liking, clicking, like tumbling, reblogging all of our stuff. So when I realized that we had amassed this fan base, I was like, we could turn this into a podcast. Like,
so wait, was it a blog first then?
It was a blog. Yeah, it was a blog first. We were a blog for, I would say, at least 6+ months before we had even
turned it
into came into a podcasting realm.
So wait then, I'm sorry to keep interrupting.
No, you're good.
So then, why wouldn't y'all count the anniversary of the blog?
Oh, well, because that's the blog per se. We're just talking about the podcast.
Okay, sorry.
The podcast is right. Totally off kilter, and the blog was called something different. I don't remember, but we eventually changed the blog's name to My Relationship with Love.
Okay.
In the end, so we had a writing search because we were getting so many impressions, so many clicks, and people were asking us to put things in article form. Mm-hmm. So they said, "Hey, you need some writers, for your blog." So I was like, "Okay, cool." So we put out a writing search. I mean, we probably got about over 100 different entries from people all over the world who wanted to write for us. So we narrowed that down to about 20, did another round of cuts, narrowed that down to about 10. And then out of these 10, we're like, okay, all these 10 are acceptable. I think our first round, we took 6. 3 and 4 were like really good. 2 didn't work out. So we went back and got 2 more, and we got 2 more. So we ended up with like a good 5, a good solid 5 that were writing for us for free, not for anything, but to boost their catalog,
exposure, right?
And enjoy kind of what we had built with us. So we started like an off the channel group chat. Everything was great, and they started writing for us. Obviously, they were, I'd say, between the ages of 14 maybe 20 in the 20s. Everybody, that was 5 years ago. Everybody grew older, get family, get college, kids, everything kind of.
Commitments.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So right now, there's still about 4 of us in that little initial group chat, but only about 1 writes pretty consistently, and, mm-hmm. and she's a teacher, so she kind of just does it to, keep up with the site. She sends us Christmas cards every year. She's a phenomenal human. Yeah. So we're very thankful for Haley. Most of the website, the articles you're going to see on there are of her.
Really?
So yeah, so that's
so what
pretty
is
good.
she? Hey, Haley, I'm gonna need you to branch out, sweet pea.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you've been writing consistently for 5 years now, you have a pretty good catalog of material, and you obviously have, the wherewithal to.
Absolutely.
So Haley, I'm gonna need you to reach out. Maybe a book, maybe a children's book. You're a teacher.
She's a teacher. Yes,
I'm just
she
saying,
yeah.
Write curriculums.
Absolutely.
Stuff, not trying to.
By no. Like, next thing you know, Haley's gonna be writing for. We Are Not So Different. I'm like, how does that happen?
No. But I just want to encourage her to look.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Move forward. Okay, so you started this 5 years ago. What was it like?
So I will say, and this is kind of what pains me the most about it all, kind of hurts me the most about it all, is we
and who is we, by the way?
Edith.
Thank you.
Edith is
she like
is
this
yeah
dude.
yeah yeah yes. Edith, who I met in college when I was a freshman, so that was around 2008, somewhere in there, is when I met her, and we've 2008, 2009, somewhere in there, and we've been kind of cool ever since. And I had two people in mind when I first started the show, and I went with her, and obviously it all
works,
worked
right?
out. So, but yes, to the prior point, I think this hurts me because we weren't enough. It was I was expecting. So real quick before I tell that, the initial premise of the show was a topic based show.
Okay.
So I said we were going to take one issue from one email or one Tumblr message or one, however they got it to us, whatever their problem was, we were going to take it, turn it into a podcast episode, and then give it back to them. And then everyone listening, if they had a similar issue or a similar problem,
they could relate.
Mm-hmm. And get something from it. We were completely unmanned for the amount of entries we got.
Oh.
If I would have podcast episodes for the next 10 years.
That's lovely.
With as many messages as we got. Now, the only issue with that is a lot of them were kind of along the same way, like, abusive parents, bullies at school, I have a crush, the crush doesn't like me, or someone likes me, I don't like them, whatever their issue was. Mm-hmm. So that was the only problem is, we can only talk about the original stick of abusive parents so many times. Mm-hmm. You don't want 7 episodes in a row to be abusive parent, where we started to group them together. So unless it was something specific like my mom did this to me, or I get bullied at school this particular way, we realized that for the listenership, no one wanted to listen to that many in a row. I don't know, but
because it has so many far-reaching effects, and it affects people in different ways, and it can be cyclical, it can be generational. So, man, you could talk about abuse till kingdom come. Mm-hmm. I don't think people would get to it, but go ahead.
Yes, no, you get. So we realized that to eliminate just not getting back to them at all. Okay. We were on top of being in school, full-time jobs. We were tirelessly staying up till 3, 4 in the morning, like responding to every person. And so, she was she would take the emails, I would take the Tumblrs, then we switch. I would take Tumblrs, or she would take Tumblrs, I would take emails, and we were just going back and forth. And I mean, it got to a point where I think on like a good day, we were getting close to 300 entries a day. But this is what I wanted. This was my vision. This was my dream, but we couldn't. I didn't know how to help outside of working 24 hours around the clock, answering them, not sleeping. So then I start feeling bad because people would then send like, "Hey, are you there? Did you get my message?" And I was just like,
you don't want them to feel like you're
right. So it got to a point where it was completely overwhelming because obviously back now, I don't know if you remember back in the day, we used to record 7 days a week podcasts. We had a podcast coming out every single day.
That's too much.
Too much. Completely unattainable. So then we switched to just 5 days a week. That's still a lot. Now, right now, we're down to 4 days a week. And I feel like, especially if this comes into play, that needs to change too.
Yeah.
And we'll have to talk and figure that out amongst ourselves. But it became I started to feel bad because I couldn't reach them in time. So I'm at work trying to respond, and so I would like go in the bathroom.
I'm a man of the people.
Man of the people. So I would like try to go in the bathroom and respond to certain people who were like, figuring it or confusing from it, and couldn't didn't understand that, like, which to their point they wouldn't know, but I had 1,000 other
Right.
requests to get to on, and then like I said, once we branched out to the Instagram, then we had all those coming in, and
So that's what you mean when you say you weren't enough.
right.
Like you didn't have enough hours in a day. You didn't have
Mm-hmm.
enough people. You needed a full time staff to
Yes, we
deal
did.
with.
We needed a full-time staff, 100%.
So how did you navigate? Like how did you obviously must have turned it around because you're still doing it to this
Oh
day.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, we switched. We literally had to, as bad as this sound, turn the Tumblr off
oh
because it I was like, I don't want people reaching out to a source that they have accepted as a good source to share their story with, and then not hear anything back.
Right.
I mean, we would go. I can't remember what it was, but I was gone out of town for something, and I didn't have access to anything. I don't remember what it was. I think it was a work thing. And then when I came back, there's like 700 or so messages in there of just unanswered messages. And obviously she's doing what she can, but I'm like, we need 10 people to be sitting here responding to all these things. So we eventually just took the messages that seemed, so that's what we started doing. We would start to skim the message, see if it was like someone at their brink, on the verge of hurting themselves, respond to them, and then just kind of like put the other ones in a folder for like later to come back to, that we never eventually came back to because till we had to cut the Tumblr off, because honestly it got overwhelming. Yeah. But then you start feeling bad because you again weren't enough for them. So we took those that looked like they were going to harm themselves. We took some that looked like they would be relatable podcast episodes, and we banked off that for a while. We had podcast episodes purely off of the banked episodes for a very long time. And then I said, well, maybe we should turn it back on. But then life. I was like, there's no way. But that makes me feel worse because there are people out there that need it and they can't get it. And there's when you really think about it, what avenue do they have? Like what exists out there?
A safe place where they can.
Right. And we're talking youth, so you have to attack them with what they know. There's a website. It's called BetterHelp.com. It goes to your insurance, but it's almost more for adults to get help with any sort of a depression, mental issues. But the youth who are afraid to go through their parents, I'm sure they can get some help and go somewhere, but they have to go through their parents. They have to verbally commit to their guardians that something's wrong.
So maybe this is for you. Maybe you can create that space for the children.
And I use an example. I know a friend who will remain nameless.
Okay.
But this friend is African American, and he reached out to his father with some of his issues that he was having, depression problems and depression issues, anxiety, that sort of thing. And then the father kind of poo-pooed it. He just threw it away, just dismissed it completely. A couple months came back. He said, I'm feeling this way. I need some help. I need to talk to somebody. And the father would just say things like, those aren't our problems. We don't deal with that. Don't get me started. Oh yeah,
I'm putting away my soapbox.
Yeah.
That's for another day.
Yes, it is.
Depression and anxiety, mental issues in the Black community. We got to do better.
Yes, we do. Go ahead, absolutely, and so that's what led me to think that there's a whole community of children out here that have parents that don't acknowledge their issues.
Because you don't put family business in the street. You don't air our dirty laundry.
Yeah. Yes. And that you think like, how do you get funding for that? That was where my mind was thinking. Like, how do I move it to the next level? How do I take this bigger? And we never got there. We never, obviously we do the podcast, but unfortunately the podcast now, so when you go to the podcast, just don't be alarmed or surprised. The podcast now is almost like just a daily, just a topical podcast now. Okay. Just current events. So the stuff that happened the other day with our president and all that, that's what we would talk about. All the stuff that happened, I think the Grammys or something's coming up soon. That would be like we just talk about like current events, topical things, because that's kind of where the show took us. That's
So
where
you veered away from your original path.
absolutely, absolutely, we are no longer on that path, and but it's always just in the back of my mind that like,
well, sir,
there's out there.
You're gonna make me preach on this.
Yeah.
You already know if it's something that you are passionate about, if it's something that you feel
okay. And I don't mean to cut you off. There's one thing that I wasn't able to grasp. I wasn't able to understand. I was making their issues my issues. So when I was reading this, I was feeling bad as if I was in their situation, which is kind of where I needed to take myself to respond to them. I needed to feel what they felt to give them adequate guidance or adequately try to coach them or drive them out of their situation. I and maybe it's a learned skill. I never learned how to cut it off. I had empathy. I was very empathetic with for of them, and I didn't know the line of okay, Dex, this is a person who's going through something. Yes, but don't take this on as if it's your
and make it your own.
Right, make it your own. Right. Make it your own in the moment to feel what they're feeling, to give them an answer, but don't sit with it after the fact. Right. But that's what I was doing, and I was honestly having trouble sleeping sometimes because I was reading all of these things, these heinous things that are happening to
real life people,
real life humans in America.
Yes, sir.
Out there.
Yes, sir.
Very troubling.
Friends and family, you don't even know what they're going through. For real, for real. Okay, but we're gonna come back to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
For real though.
Yes. Yes.
We need to talk. Okay, carry. Yes. Cool. So you're now in a part where you have veered off and you're doing the topical stuff. So the growing pains, I felt your pain when you were talking about if you felt like you weren't enough. Yeah. But like nowadays, that's what you want, right? So what? Like now you don't want growing pains. Well, you do want growing pains. Oh, you do want growing pains, right? Yeah. So I guess then, how do you turn what once was back into now? I'm sure that you have, a great following, all that good stuff, but to the point where now you're being overwhelmed.
What we did was we acknowledged the fact that the show isn't what it used to be. The show changed. The show changed based off of input we were getting from listeners. So now, one day a week is normally our Thursday episode. We'll do story time. So that's anybody who emails us in or anybody who gives us a tale or a story. And that could be real life people, that could be internet people, whoever reaches out to us the best way possible and gives us something to discuss, we then have it. So now that used to be every episode. Now that's just one time a week. And to be honest with you, a lot of it is adult issues, really. Like my boyfriend cheated on me. Yeah, my job is bad because of this. My whatever. So a lot of it's based on more adult issues than there are children issues or adolescent issues. So, but also, when you're looking at our demos, there's not a lot of kids listening anymore. There's a lot of adults listening now. I mean, we're very, in the past we never used to speak bad language, but now it's kind of like a free for all. It's whatever. In the past we used to really cater, and even the opening to the show was very warm and soft and like calming, and it made you feel like, oh man, I'm coming into something. This is something warm. Now, like, we don't really have an opening to the show. We kind of just cold open and go from there. So there's a lot about the show that changed to where if I was someone who had an issue or had some problems or wanted to reach out to someone, within the first 5 minutes, I would know that this isn't the show for me anymore. And saying that, it sucks because you don't really think about that while you're doing it. That's kind of the reality.
It's reality.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, I know you got some major moves coming up in the near future.
Very, very, very much so.
So, would you like to expound upon that, or do you want me to?
You go ahead. You just, I want you.
I want all the details.
I know.
I want to know.
Want you to dive
I want to
into.
know
Yeah.
what's going on with family, faith, and finances.
All right. So,
yes,
I'll tackle all of those.
Okay.
I'll hit them real quick. Family, no better off where we were 2 years ago, if not worse. So there's that.
No, I don't believe it. Don't say that.
Finances, broke, real broke.
Don't stop.
Brokety, broke.
Whatever.
So we ain't talking about that.
Don't say that.
Now, faith, however, we could spend a little time on faith, because you had been trying to get me to visit some of your sanctuaries, both of them, the newest one and the prior one, so many times.
Yeah.
And I did for like stuff that was super important to you. It's like when you got I don't want to say promoted.
It's fine.
Yeah, when you got you know, you had your awesome one, that was great. I came to, because I like music, so I came to a lot of the old the choir stuff from the old one. But outside of that, I was just you tried everything. I think you like offered up lunches afterward every here and there, and I was still
saying, like,
declining. Now, also though, now the job that I have Monday to Friday, well, my new position that I'm moving into, there might be some. It's still Monday through Friday, but still, you know, weekends, little evenings, you know, put a little more gas in the chamber. You know what I mean? To get more from it. So that's that. But as of just on paper, 9 to 5. But back in the day when I was working at another establishment, I was
right.
I was working those long 12-hour days. But now my faith journey has been one that's probably a relatable story to a lot of people. Okay. Because my issue has never been with the Lord, God, Jesus, none of that. I've never had issues with how any of that was presented to me. My issue has always been with church. I've always believed in God. I've always believed in a higher power. I've always believed that there was a way you're supposed to walk in the life. My issue has always been with church.
And you're not alone.
Because
people
growing up
are in church.
Yeah.
And they're imperfect.
Oh man.
So there's always going to be an issue.
Yeah. And growing up, I never we honestly might have went to 4 or 5 different churches for reasons that I was too young to understand. And then once I started getting older and realized that somebody somewhere did something somewhere, some money came up missing here, someone's sleeping with somebody here, doing this with somebody here. Yeah. So we move out here to the suburbs. We go to a church. Was at the church for quite a while. My mom was like into that church, and the pastor did something that turned my mother sour. So then left that church to go to another. So there's always in my mind I had built up like church is bad. Church is bad. The word is good, and if you could get the word without the church, you might be in the best of both worlds. And that's where I was at with my, I won't say issues, but that's where I was at with my understanding of it all. Mm-hmm. And then I was introduced to a church home from my current fiance, and I say current, but
he said it.
Yeah,
he said fiance.
My fiance, and it honestly turned my whole mindset around. Because remember how we talked about earlier, whatever path you could take, whichever road you're prepared for, whatever road it's in here, whether you're going to go left, you're going to go right, you're going to go good, you're going to want to go bad. So I had to realize that not only was life a mindset, I mean, I could walk through life every day and be bitter and angry and hate everything, or I could walk through life every day with a powerful spirit, and then begin to, you know, take those negatives that I was once perceiving negatives and give them back to the world as positives. Now, I've never been a mean, bitter person. You've known me for a very long time, probably known me longer than most people have known me. And I've always been, you know, cheerful and joyful and upbringing for other people. But I wasn't like that on the inside. On the inside, I hated myself. I hated everything. I was very dark. That's how I ended up leaving the state for that little time I did. I needed to get away because I started feeling like the walls were closing in and I didn't have an escape. But I always make this joke to you and you hate it. I just drive my car off a
It's not funny. It wasn't funny then.
Drive my car off a cliff. So but I was introduced to this and I went into it with an open mind. And I wanted to maybe think that I don't know everything, obviously. And maybe there's something out there that could get me to a point of understanding. And that's how and it's been about, let's just say a year. Maybe let's just say somewhere around there, 10 months, almost a year of like true dedication to it. And so my big plan was to reveal all of this. I told you, because I knew I was coming on your show and I knew you would want to hear all this. So my big plan was to reveal everything. But then I remember the other day we got to talking about something. Yeah. I just started like throwing it all out there at you. I'm sorry, but yeah, it's.
I'm really excited.
Yeah,
really, really excited. Like I was going back through some of the stuff on my prayer board.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Let's talk about this prayer board. So I remember you told me you had a prayer board, and I remember. I don't know what was going on. This is before I even had my car that I have now. This is before everything.
I remember.
And I was just like, all right, this prayer board stuff.
Yeah.
What's going on here? But then I was like, you know what? You started telling me how much power this prayer board had and how much right there was on there. So I know if anyone's ever heard of I can't remember what it's called, but you make like at the beginning of the year, you just make like a full board of all your goals and everything.
A vision board.
Vision board. There you go. Thank you. No problem. And then, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I lost it. And then when they come back to it, it's all there. So this prayer board, which was made or written on there, I want to say 2017, somewhere in there.
It was August of 2017.
August of 2017.
Yes, sir. I got the date.
Yeah. And so yeah, I'm more than okay with you sharing what you put on the prayer board for me, because not that the prayer board went anywhere, it's still on there.
Oh, it's still there.
And nor did we forget it, but
no.
Going and revisiting these like what you actually wrote on that prayer board was,
and that's the purpose of a prayer board, because so I have two prayer boards. They're one on each door of the entry of my room. So it's the first thing I see when I wake up, and it's the last thing I see before I leave my room. And I remember I made a whole project of it. I was so proud of it.
Yes, I remember too. I was like, that's not my talent, but that's great.
It wasn't mine either, but I was really excited about it. So I have these little sheets of paper, and then I'll date them, and I'll put like the person that I'm praying for, the date, and what I'm praying for. And as the prayers, you know, are answered, as God is faithful as he always is, then I will write the date and when stuff occurred. And then when everything is done, I'll take it off the prayer board and I'll put it in my little stash. So that way I have these whole stack of papers of answered prayer.
Here we go. I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it too?
I do.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Right. So, yeah.
So it was August 20th, 2017 when I put you on my board. And it said Dexter, and then it says faith. Answer those questions he is regarding you /religion/church and fellowship. Then the next one.
All answered, by the way.
Bless the Lord.
Yes, all of them. Yes.
Give him big ideas and the ability to see his passions come to fruition.
100%. 100% right there.
Bless.
Leave the work name out, but yeah.
Oh yes. Bless his finances. Help him to be a good steward of what you've given him.
Got an amazing job
on 10/12/17.
10/12/17.
Yes.
Moved around and said amazing job. just took a new position that said, I mean,
yes,
things just keep.
Do it, Jesus. Where my
So,
pom poms? I should have brought my pom poms. Y'all, those that know about my pom poms. But anyway,
yes.
Okay. So, and that's the one he was just talking about. Got the major promotion.
Yeah.
Then the next one was bless his relationship with his family, and then I put in parentheses mother because I know that you and her have struggled.
Right, and that one, while I can say that from this point, from here, August 2017, it has gotten better. Specifically because, and it's almost like better with less. Like I removed myself from a lot of potential explosive moments that could have, potentially caused some strife and some issues. So yes, I learned from that and moved on from there. So yes, that was a change.
And then bless his business endeavors.
Yeah, all that's just great. And side hustles and everything as well.
We need to talk about the
side
hustles.
We do.
And then but he needs a car.
Got that.
Yep. August 30th is when he 10 days later is when he answered that prayer. He needs a home.
And home as a roof over my head, got that, but actual home, like we discussed, that's well on its way. 2020 happening as well.
Yes, do it, Lord. Yes. But I think you got the apartment. Was that?
Oh, that was.
Was it the same year?
Yeah, it was. No. It was
2018.
Yeah, October of 2018. That's my lease. I just signed my new lease for another year to this next October, and then talking to some realtors about some stuff.
I was saying that. Awesome. And then last but not least, he desires a wife and children.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to put a pin in that. Because I do see that, we got about 9 minutes left. And I want to give it, and I want to give her the time that they both deserve. It being the relationship and her being the fiance. I want to give that the time it deserves. I think I don't want to cram everything about her in a very small window. This has been a phenomenal conversation. And we've hit a lot of points, but Boo Baby deserves more than 9 minutes.
He said Boo Baby.
Yeah, more than 9 minutes. So
I'm so excited, though.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Definitely have to do that. So now that could either be another We Are Not So Different live here on ESM Radio, 89.9 FM, or that could be a We're Not So Different podcast episode. Tease that. I mean, I'm at your leisure.
Awesome.
But that. Also, the wife and the children, that also came to fruition, as they say.
Yes.
And I remember when we were writing all these things down, I'm like, 5 years, 7 years,
why
10 decades? Like, I don't know. It just didn't. None of it seemed attainable. And what is this? 2 years and a couple months. 2 years, 3 months. And a lot of this stuff, like I mean, look at these numbers. The job happened.
Look at the numbers.
The job happened less than 2 months after it was on there. The car happened 10 days later. Where'd that come from?
Well,
who done it?
You know who done it.
Yeah, well, yeah, actually I do now. All of this business, especially this one, Faith. I was so.
I know.
Man.
It was vexing my spirit.
Yeah.
You was vexing my spirit. I said, Lord help him.
And look at how so far we've come in such a small amount of time. It's very moving when you really think about it.
God, I'm telling you, I don't know what he has planned for 2020. Everyone's like, oh, God's going to do this, God's going to do this. And I believe he can.
Yeah.
And I believe he will.
Yes.
But I think what he needed me to see in 2019 was, you are not forgotten. I ain't forgot about none of the stuff on none of your list.
Yeah.
You are not forsaken. I am a promise keeper. I am faithful. And I was like, that's what I needed. Because there's still stuff on that board that I'm asking for and that I'm believing for because he told me.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can get a little, you can become discouraged. There are lulls to this thing. So, but what that and a few other things that came to fruition just last month.
Yeah.
What it did for me was like, okay, Andrea.
Yeah.
He's like, I got you, baby girl.
Yeah.
But he just has me.
Good, set, and ready.
Yeah.
So now, two things real quick. I know before we sign off. Did you think about that 100,000 question? I know it's
didn't.
quick. Okay.
I didn't.
Right.
How would I grab the attention of 100,000? I mean, I could say something corny like the first thing people would think is money. Like I don't know if, but who are you going to give away money to 100,000 people? Yeah. So I don't know. I guess that's something that I will have to ponder.
So I got something for you.
Okay.
And this is for you.
Like
feel free to write this down.
I am.
Just write down one thing. Your voice. I haven't had the chance to, especially in person. I know I've helped you a lot behind the scenes, but I haven't had the chance to honestly tell you in person how proud I am of you and how far you've come. We're recording, Dex.
Please don't.
Yeah, how far you've come with all this, because I remember the days of us sitting on your couch and you didn't even know how to like bring up anything on the laptop. You had no idea what was going on. I'm like, plug this in. You're like, what? And I was just like, oh, okay.
It's all true.
And, yeah. And honestly, just watching you build what you've built is moving for me, and to let me know that like I help you because I love you, not because I'm like hoping for anything. I want you to succeed. I want you to get to the heights that you want to reach. I know you have big dreams and big goals for yourself in your head. I know you can reach them. You have a good support system around you, an amazing husband behind you. And I do know that you have the ability to reach the heights you want to reach. But I do think that your voice is powerful. I think it has faith behind it, yes, but it also comes with a message that I think everyone needs to hear. And you told me that you feel like you keep having visions of like TV and like, on camera. And that makes me feel excited, because you also told me you have visions of this, and here we are. And I don't know if you had thought about that. That's what you told me back then. This was supposed to be your zenith, was this here, and you've gotten this.
I totally forgot.
And now moving forward, I want you to get that. And I mean, next step is Oprah. What? I'm just
You're the second person to say this is. Oh God.
Yeah.
I wasn't
ready. Yeah. Now we're there. It's out there, whole world.
It is.
But honestly, I'm extremely proud of you for the podcast, because you've like taken to that, more than a lot of people have. Some people I have to like drag to keep, like they'll approach me and say, "Hey, help me with this," and I've never charged anybody for any
consulting.
Excuse me, consulting. Any helping, any getting in the program, nothing. I've always just done it out of the kindness of my heart, because I had to find it all myself. I didn't have a me to help me get to, so I've always wanted to be others' me's. So anytime like I sent you something, you just took it like it was, the last book you were ever going to read. You consumed it.
I had to figure it out.
And then you put it out there. So I don't know if any of your guests have ever said it, but you got a proud fan in me for how far you've come from nothing.
Thank you.
And literally, your blogs are entertaining. and these people reaching out to you for stuff that ain't got nothing to do with nothing.
I can't help y'all.
Yeah.
He's the smart. He's the tech guy.
Yes. Yeah. And I just want to say, so thank you for keeping my flame alive when it comes to podcasting, and it comes to trying to push forward, and it comes to trying to do all of this. Really, really much appreciated.
Well, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
That was very heartfelt.
Yes.
Too early to be in the field, Dex.
It's all right.
Well, thank you so much for spending your morning with me.
Yeah.
I look forward to more of these conversations, because I got notes over here.
Oh yeah. We it's funny. We had a outline, and I knew it. I'm like, when we get this outline,
forget about it.
We're not. It's just, this outline's gonna get left to the right, and it's gonna come over. But she's been taking notes, so we have other things that we're gonna discuss. I'm definitely gonna be back on.
Yes.
I mean, now that I paid my $10, I just come back whenever. I don't have to pay $10 ever again.
God bless you.
I'm gonna just come in with you, and I'll be chilling while you're doing your thing.
Yes.
Bringing your guests in and everything. So
yes.
Yeah, we'll be sitting here. You bringing some political figures, and we're bringing some important folk.
Oh my gosh!
We'll get it going.
All my guests are important. Yeah, because everybody got something to say.
You sure right about that?
Awesome. So yes, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, ESM Radio. If y'all not listening, get in tune 89.9 FM or esmradio.net. You will find us here. We are not so different. God bless.
We good?
Yep.
Good.
First ever.
Really good. Oh yeah. Yeah, we edit that part out.